Well, good morning. How is everyone doing?
Good.
Well, this presentation will be life-changing, right? And I want you to pay attention because this might change some of your lives. So, as introducer mentioned, my name is Ravi. I graduated 2013 first, and then 2016 did my master's. And it's amazing to come back to this campus after 2.5 years. Everything has changed. I mean, I can't even went to UC yesterday to grab some food, but there's nothing there. They all moved to Student Union. So everything is changing. So let's see, what's the goal for this talk? As you can see in the title, it's Lead by Disruptive Design. Now, as an ERU alum, I guess most of you are alumni from here, but if there are students, this can also apply. We are the world leaders in aviation, everybody knows that. We lead aerospace engineering to a whole new level. But also, if you're a researcher, you can still apply the same concept that I'm going to tell you by leading by disruptive design. You don't have to be the manager to lead. You can lead from any point of view of whatever work you are doing. You can be the researcher, you can be a student, or you can be the manager. So let's start with it. I have a little quiz for you throughout the entire slide. So just raise your hands and see if you know the answer. Does anyone know what this building is, where it is, who owns it, any idea? There you go, nice. There's some Apple fans over here. That's the new headquarters for Apple Inc. That's the same Apple Corporation that gives you iPhones, iPad, and all sorts of other Apple services. But there are some interesting facts about it. This year, they started migration of their 15,000 employees. Take that back, 12,000 employees. 12,000 employees migrated from their old campus to the new campus. But that's not just fascinating. What's more fascinating is that it's in Cupertino, California, and it cost them $5 billion to make it. Just to give you the idea of how much amount that is to be spent on CapEx, right? That's just the headquarters building. That's equivalent to the General Electric profit of 2016, a yearly profit. That was $7 billion for General Electric. They spent $5 billion on just this one building. That gives you the idea of how much money Apple Corporation has. Let's give another example of how they can make it happen. How did Apple Corporation, they became so big that they spent $5 billion on just making their building, right? That's somebody's equivalent of their yearly profit. Well, the reason is simple. If anybody knows what this graph is, any idea? This graph basically is how they did it, as simple as it gets. It's their stock market graph for Apple. They're trading in New York Stock Exchange. And this was the moment. This number was very important for me as well as an investor because 207.88. That represents their value per share. And the amount of share multiplied with their price per share equivalent to how much that company is worth. And early this year in May, they reached this milestone. They figured out 207.88 and it became the first $1 trillion company in the America and currently in the world. There was another $1 trillion company named PetroChina that was in 2013, but that came back down really quick, so it's not standing right now. But the only $1 trillion company existing in the world right now is Apple, and that happened this year alone in May. Let's give you another example. Any idea what this is and who makes them? And don't tell me Kiwa system because it tells you right there.
There's a autonomous robots that move warehouses around the Amazon.
There you go. Nice, nice. Wow. So yeah, I don't even have to show you this picture right there. Because that was my second question. If you can't guess that, what is that? But that is correct. How about that? So one robot, not enough. 5, not enough. The entire warehouse of robots delivering stuff from one point to another. So your 2-day free shipping arrives right on time and sometimes before they even promised. I ordered a free 5-day option, and I still got it within 2 days. As amazing as it sounds. That is Amazon Corporation, right? They are everywhere. And the same thing that I say with Apple, what makes them to lead such a massive warehouse, which they call Amazon Fulfillment Centers, and they are hidden all across the US. You just need to find them. That's some exercise you can do when you go to a new city. Just search Amazon Fulfillment Center, and there will be some warehouse that you can find where this is all located. It's fully automated. But what made them spend that much money and innovation? Same deal, that one graph. And I was really excited for it because I'm a big Amazon fan. If you see these graphs, it's not important, but any of you can see this lady right there? She's taking a picture of this lady. That's how excited I was. Because even though right now, the graph 2039, Amazon hit the same $1 trillion cap month after Apple. And they hit 2050 per share, which led them to have a market cap of $1 trillion right after Apple. And who is the leadership behind it? Well, anybody heard Jeff Bezos? The richest person on this planet owns Amazon Corporation. This year alone, he has made about $60 billion. This year alone, and this year isn't over yet, right? And so don't ask me about this equation, so I have no idea what's going on over there, but I just like this picture. But here's the leadership that's behind Amazon, and how they can achieve it is Amazon is everywhere, right? We think it started as a book-selling company, but now it's the largest online store ever, period. You can find everything on Amazon store. But that's not the only thing he's running. Amazon also has a very profitable online cloud computing business that's getting them more and more revenue, called Amazon Web Services. If some of you saw 1 month ago, they announced that they are now coming to your kitchen. They introduced microwave that can be run by Alexa. But that's just one step they're getting it to invade your kitchen, and soon you will have refrigerators made by them who is going to order your tomatoes and cucumbers and onions for you without you even realizing it, because that's waste of the time to go to the store of buying all those necessary groceries. So they're everywhere. So there seems to be a common theme, right? These are the two companies that I gave you example of. The world's most valuable companies, both are $1 trillion worth. How did you do it? Well, you see, the world is changing, and this is why this year alone, we are in the fantastic time. And there are some of them over here, but I don't want to sound bad, but this is the best time to stay alive, period. 2018 is where it's everything. That's when it's happening. You got $2 trillion companies that never existed before. But how did they do it? Let me give you more examples. Let's start with this picture. Now, this will get difficult. Any idea what this picture is? All right, this is the picture of a similar company like Amazon, but it is the world's biggest retailer that does not have their own inventory. Imagine that. You're selling stuff, but you don't create any of your stuff. That's Alibaba's warehouse. It's their Amazon's counterpart in China. Really big company ran by Jack Ma. So we have the world's biggest retailer that doesn't have their own product. We also have the world's biggest hotel chain that does not have any of the rooms of their own. Any idea what that is? Airbnb, there you go. We also have the world's largest taxi cab provider that doesn't own any taxi. Right? Uber? And soon, we will have the world's largest currency that doesn't reside on a single bank for any of the country. And this can be Bitcoin. Hasn't happened yet. But soon, we might have the world's biggest currency that doesn't reside in one bank for any of those countries. And you all know the world's biggest social media company that doesn't create any of their media, right? We all give it to them. And that's how they make money, right? Facebook. So you see, all of this thing didn't exist even a decade ago. Some of you can remember this. This type of stuff, if you even tell somebody that you will have these companies, like a car company that doesn't have any cab, they will be like, just go home. They're not going to believe you a decade ago. But all of this is happening now. So why now? And what can I learn from it? Because it's good to learn all about the success stories, but how can we as a common human being, now I'm not sure if any of you are billionaires yet, but if you are, let me know outside. I would like to talk. So what is the secret? Can small people, can us, just a normal human being, can we become like them? Or can we apparently change our lives so that we can learn from Amazon, we can learn from Apple, and take everything we learn, apply it to our personal lives or to the companies that we work for, and try to get at least some benefits out of it. And you may say that, well, Jeff Bezos is a $180 billion guy, he can do this. Uber can do this because they are so rich now. Airbnb has lots of money, I don't have money. Let me tell you this secret. 2018, you don't need to have money. There's a thing called unicorns. They aren't real. I'm standing right here, but this is not the unicorn that I'm talking about. I'm talking about unicorns that are this unicorns. Any idea what unicorn means? So in a startup world, this is the chart that shows the number of unicorns from 2011 all the way to 2015. And unicorns are the privately held companies. There's a startup at one point, and they are still private, but at some point, their market cap becomes more than $1 billion. And in a startup world, we call them the unicorns. Now, some of the companies that came to the career fair, most of them are above this level because they are publicly traded, most of them, and you need to be more than $1 billion. But these are the startups. But I want you to take a look of how fast the things are changing. Look at some of these names. Spotify only became unicorn in 2011-ish. And now everyone, I know all of my friends are using Spotify. What is radio? Nobody knows. That just happened in 2011, right? Who knows this company? Spacex. Anybody from Spacex here? No? All right. So they became unicorn in just 2013, and now it's a household name. Everybody knows what SpaceX is doing. They're already bringing the rockets down. The things that were unheard of 20 years ago happened in 2013 and then onwards. And then you can see Uber, only July 2013. Hasn't even finished 10 years, and it's a household name. Taxis call it Uber. What is taxi? So things are moving so fast, and these are the guys who have started this company just bootstrapping from either garages, from their bedrooms, and you don't need the money. That's the concept I'm trying to bring. And you see how the frequency has changed from 2014. You see there were only a few companies during 2013 timeframe, and suddenly you come to 2014 and 15. It's a multitude of companies. I see Stripe, I see WeWork, Snapchat. How many of you are on Snapchat here? Not much. I kind of knew that, but Twilio, these are the cloud computing spaces. But you see how it's getting crowded and crowded. And I'm pretty sure if you get a 2018 graph, there will be even more companies. Which means that in 2018, you don't need to have money to start a unicorn, right? And this is the fact of why it's happening, which was unheard of prior to 2014. All right, so now coming to the meat of the matter, that I already showed you what are these companies doing, how did they become big, how you don't need money, you can still have unicorns like that. But you say, well, Ravi, we are studying, or we are working for the company, right? Or we are retired. If you are retired, that's amazing. That's just enjoy the life. But if you are still working, how can you change your life, right? Let me tell you a scary scenario. While you heard that all the unicorns are getting famous, there is a counter side of the story of how the world is changing. Anyone know Toys R Us? Of course, right? Yeah. Toys R Us was the thing 20 years ago, right? But they failed to adapt. They failed to adapt everything that I just said unicorns were adapting. Amazon adapting, disrupting the entire space. And look what happened. This year, they filed for bankruptcy, closing all the stores of Toys R Us. Another example, Blockbuster. Any idea what Blockbuster did? Yeah? It was the Friday night thing, right? take a trip to Blockbuster. Same thing, this year they announced bankruptcy. And even the sad part is that Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix for $50 million, which is not that much in 2010 to buy Netflix. But they didn't do it. They failed to adapt. And now they are bankrupt. Netflix is more than $20 billion in market cap. See, some of the things that companies don't adapt can also be learned with some of the people that don't adapt to the changing environment that we are in. So how can you adapt? How can you learn from all these failures and all these successes, right? Let's start with something I like to call a disruption canvas that you can all adapt. Go home today or tomorrow after this homecoming and try to make your own canvas. And I'll show you my canvas of how I try to adapt to everything that I'm doing. As the previous speaker said, you always need a bigger goal. So I'll go dive deep into it. Let's see. So I was born in India, right? On the western coast, right here in Gujarat. Lots of beach over there. But focus more on this white thing as I go through the slide. Normal. And that's something that you need to hate having in your life. Normal. Any white square you see in your life that's just normal, avoid that. Because if you keep saying normal, normal, normal 5 times in a row, soon you will be Blockbuster or Toys R Us. Or Toys R Us. It can happen, right? If it can happen to the company, it can happen to the people, right? And here's the city, Rajkot. That's where I was born. It's kind of a quick snapshot. But it was normal, right? I was born, and to being born as a human, you don't have to work, right? You're just born, and you just find out you're human one day. Even though the chances are very low, you can get struck with lightning 30 times. And that chances are more higher than you being sitting here right now as a human. But you don't have to work for it, so I put it under normal. That's normal. Let's move on. Disrupt. That's the green thing that I like you to have in your life. The more of that you have, the more chances you have of being successful and being Apple and being Amazon, right? Being rich, whatever your goal is, this applies everywhere, right? So how can you disrupt? My first disruption came when I moved to this country, right? This was a whole new country, new culture, new people. And before I left India, I have not traveled by myself outside my state without my parents. And then I was in this flight, 17 hours all across new world. So it was a disruption for me because not only I get to come to the world's prestigious, most renowned university called Embry-Riddle, but I also got a chance to work and graduate with some of the brightest minds during my class in 2016 from a variety of different backgrounds who are in the aerospace industry now. So this was a disruption because this was a new kind of people that I was interacting with, new food. Cheeseburger, I thought only had cheese in them. But that's not right? So those are some of the things, and just to give you a quick snapshot. Also, while I was here, while I was studying, I was also trying to build my leadership skills. So I joined Student Government Association. And this is some of our leaders, per se, who plan to change certain things around campus. In 2011, that's how I got introduced to one of the great associations called Embry-Riddle Alumni Association. And this was in 2011, and me having fun with some of the future, I don't know if they are here, but this person is enjoying himself, and I was trying to be just a little ego during the homecoming. This is 2011 homecoming. But I also got my taste of working for corporate America, right? Spirit Airlines is where I co-opted prior, where I got to introduce firsthand of what it means to take engineering knowledge and work for an American company. I've seen how Indian companies operate, but US is totally different. So I'll put this under disruption. Let's move on. What is the next thing? So it's still disrupt, all right? Now I got a chance to move to Dallas, Texas. Now for some of you, this might not be a disruption. If you were born here, you've been traveling around prior to joining university. But for me, this was the first time I was leaving Daytona Beach. You know, my first flight from India was right in Daytona Beach. So I thought that entire America looked like Daytona Beach, which is not true. Not all cities, just the one road that has everything. I had to apply for a driver's license and then drive in a very scary road called I-95. For the very first time in my life, I never drew a car because I was kind of scared to left and right side of driving. So my parents were always careful not to teach me driving in India. So I learned driving over here, was courageous, took my first Ford Focus and drove all the way to Dallas, Texas. So that was a disruption because you're moving to a new place, right? This is like first time me leaving Florida, Daytona Beach, going to Dallas, Texas. There were so many things in mind. Is everything that big in Texas? That was answered pretty fast. Everything is big in Texas. Great city, used to work for Southwest Airlines. Again, a little bit bigger carrier than Spirit. So this was a disruption. Disruption, you can do it. As previous speakers say, if you're born here, you can take your life to other country and that will count as disruption. You will learn a lot about that country when you move there, right? What's the next thing, right? So now I was comfortable with Daytona Beach. I was comfortable with America. I was comfortable with flying to the different states. That was not a big deal. But see, when you study aerospace engineering, you are taught certain way of thinking when you stay in one school. So I tried to get a research assistantship at another university called Stanford in California. And I worked in a field which was not my field. It was still aerospace, but it was so different. It was so structural health monitoring. It was such a different field that I had no background in it. But I still applied for it. This I count as a mental disruption. You see, all of us are having one skill that we try to hone, right? Without expanding to the newer fields, which is really important. This goes the same way as Amazon. If Amazon would have just stayed with their Amazon website and selling everything, which is still great business, they will nowhere, there will be $1 trillion company without expanding to other businesses, right? And it's the same thing with human beings. So I took that leap of faith, and that changed everything. I got to some of the seminars at Stanford Business School and got to meet the team of Hyperloop. Anybody heard of Hyperloop? Okay. So for some of you who don't know, Hyperloop is the system that they're trying to make. It's a company, and they're trying to make it go so fast that airplanes may be obsolete. You can commute from Miami to New York in a single day for your job. So that future is coming. But just because I attended the university, I got my thoughts in terms of entrepreneurial thinking, because Silicon Valley promotes entrepreneurship, and I got interested in entrepreneurship, investing, and also more about business. This is some of us who won just in 3 months one of the Airbus competition for one of the conferences that happens over there. So this was a mental disruption, and I think we all need it at some point in our lives to try and explore a new field, and you will be shocked by how much you are better at that field compared to your original field. And this is something that I discovered from visiting that university. All right, what is this? Normal. And that's something, this is something that's hurtful to everybody. But I graduated in 2016, right? And it's always a good news, so don't take this as a bad way, but it's always a good news. I'm currently working as a materials and process engineer, as Sarah mentioned, at Gulfstream, right? Dream come true for me. That was the company I've always wanted to work for. And this is my baby kind of thing, G650. This is the plane that I work in at my daily life. Savannah, any of you been there? It's a gorgeous city, tremendous historical sites over there. But this was normal, right? Because you, basically in your life, you study undergrad, and then you take a job, you study master's, take a job. But this is all part of normal. So this cannot be counted as a disruption, even if you're moving to a new city, but if you were born in the US, that moving of the city is not a disruption. This is just a way of life, right? You need to study, get a job, find a way to make money to survive, right? That's basic human tendency. So this is normal, you need that. So don't stop applying for jobs, right? That's not what I'm trying to say. But this is normal. But point is that most people stop after this. They get a job, and our previous speaker gloriously mentioned that they get a job, and that's it, they get stagnant, right? No more hunger to move forward. right? But that's something that you need to try to avoid. And when I came here in sophomore year, and Sarah can attest to that, that I was not a public speaker. I was not a speaker, period. I was shy. People still were having issues understanding me, right? It was the accent that kind of kicked in. I'm still trying to work on that. But right after I got this job, then I started to disrupt that area of my life. Okay, well, if you have to be a good speaker to get your point across, right? That's the basic human tendency that we need to have a better communication. So the first thing I did was join something called Toastmasters International. And I'm not sure how many of you have heard that, but it's the organization where we speak every week on different topics. And then you critically get evaluated. And that's something I joined, and within 1 year I won the district contest for Georgia. So it can happen. It's just about disruption, right? This is disrupt. Because I was trying to do things that I was really scared to do, but suddenly I found out Toastmasters and boom, it's all over. And it has a ripple effect. You see, just as Amazon and Apple, they disrupted certain industry and they get rewarded for their stock price, right? For me, I don't have my own ticker symbol yet, unfortunately. But I get rewarded in other ways. Just because I did Toastmasters, look at the ripple effect. Here is me getting featured on WTOC, which is a regional public channel in Savannah, promoting STEM activities with high school kids for Gulfstream, right? I started encouraging the younger generation and try to do all these events where I can promote through all these activities, promote the idea of aerospace. And because of that, I can put that in the next big thing, which was TEDx. And I was really interested in giving a TEDx talk, which happened finally a few months ago. This is our team in TEDx Savannah. The speech was a compressed version of what I'm giving right now, but this is a longer version, so it's really good that you guys are here. But this was a TEDx, and you see the ripple effect of how something that started there can lead up to the TEDx talk, which is a wider audience. About 5 million people can access that content. What's the next disruption if you are not getting bored? All right. Disruption, you need to continue, right? Whenever we stop getting the normal boxes, that's when you get into trouble. So by this point, I was an engineer, right? Fulfilled the public speaking skills that I needed. But the next thing that I didn't know was that how does a normal American street, I knew that, how does that operate? But how does a main street that governs all of our lives, believe it or not, it does. It's called Wall Street, right? Once you understand Wall Street, what happens there, that means now you have a game, right? Now you are competing with the big leagues because they control everything. All the companies get traded over there. So I started investing, started learning more about it. You know, as an engineer, you always look at the graph, but now the graph, the axis just changes. Rather than speed versus velocity, as an engineer, now it becomes years versus billions of dollars. That's the only gap. And I think as an engineer, you have this inherent gift to interpret all these numbers, right, and try to make the right move in the stock markets. There is a good thing. If you look at the media right now, they will say, some of them, they will say that Amazon and Apple are disrupting so many spaces, that the mere fact, if Amazon tomorrow announces that they are coming to your field, which they did in pharmaceuticals, overnight the stocks of Walgreens will drop, just because of the fear, right? Because they know that whatever space Amazon enters in, they go full in, and they take the control of everything. So people get scared. And there is a dire scarcity of jobs that's coming. By 2013, in America, there will be 65 million jobs, 65 million, right? They will get eradicated, no more, because of automation and AI, right? Overall in the world, 800 million jobs are in trouble by 2013, which is like 12 years from now, right? 800 million people will not have work to do because of automation. People complain, but there's no point of complaining. What I do is that, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Either you learn those skills, and if you cannot learn those skills, invest with those companies who are going to disrupt. Because now you're on their side, right? Now you're buying the stock in that company, so the more they disrupt, the more happier you are. And that's something you can do. That's something you can do by knowing how Wall Street operates. You can be on the right side, right? So what's the future for me? Well, I would like to continue disruption. This hasn't happened yet, right? I'm still trying to see what is the right path that I need to take to disrupt more. The next thing I think I would like to pursue is to do an MBA, and probably not at Tesla, but probably at Stanford. And then start working somewhere in the investment banking area, or to see how people raise money, how you fund good companies, and start seeing what are the opportunities down there, and then finally start my own company as a startup, right? So these are the future plans. I'm not sure if it is going to happen or not, but it is something that I'm planning in works. And I think all of you should have a certain portion that you need to be planning as you move down the line. What are some of the lessons? Always disrupt, right? Go home, make that canvas, make sure there is less normal items and more disrupt items. Never stay the same. You don't need the money, start a business. That's the great thing about 2018. And this picture signifies it. You cannot stop this guy. If any of you know who this is, Robonaut. It's a robot installed in the space station to do astronauts' jobs. So even their jobs are at stake. There might not be astronauts, right? Or maybe less number of them. The good thing is to, since we're these guys, is to work with this person. There's no stopping Robonaut. But this is a great picture that signifies that you need to be working with them rather than going against it. Because anytime you go against the technology, it's always a bad bet. So I hope that kind of helps you in different aspects of whatever life you're in. And if you have any more questions, let me know. And I hope you go disrupt. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. Anyone like a mic for a question?
Thank you, Ravi, for coming to the school and speaking to us. So my question for you is, when you first started looking into Wall Street and investing, what resources did you use to learn where to start?
Cool. That's a great question. As I said, a lot is changing in 2018. And I'm a big believer in saying that almost every problem in our lives can be solved by that little device on your phone. And in 2018, there is a service that I use called Robinhood. It's an app. And prior to Robinhood, in 2010, and even 2010, even though it's just happened, right? If you don't have money, which at the student level, I didn't have money. I started investing as an intern, but intern, you still don't have money, right? To buy big stocks like Amazon. So what Robinhood did is that there's no fees for any transaction. And that was what was stopping younger generation from entering the investment world, because every time you have $20 of saving, you buy the stock, they will charge you $4 just as a transaction fee. But Robinhood came and disrupted that entire space. And now they are like second largest investment trading website company. And so what in Robinhood, you can put $20, buy a certain stock, and there will not be any fees, zero fees, for free. It's only happened in 2018. So that's how I started. I would go home. You can always save $20, right? You can not buy Starbucks coffee, right? There's always, hopefully nobody's working at Starbucks. But there's always little things that you can save rather than spending. And when you enter the investment area, now you look at the world differently. Rather than buying iPad that I don't really need, I will buy Apple stock, right? So rather than buying, the quickest way to, not buy Ferrari, which is the company, is to buy Ferrari. That's how it goes. Is that you need to be focusing more on the company than the product. But most people are on the consumer side and not the investment. But yeah, you can do it. Check out that app.